The United States is on the brink of World War III with Iran. Israel is the only country that's really holding Iran back. Just last week, the USS Eisenhower's aircraft carrier and a group of F-22 Raptor jets were sent, a squadron, were sent to the area that could be first strike against Iran. So that's why this week Iran has been delaying its response of attacking Israel. And everything will spill over from Israel down towards Somalia and the Houthis. Then that affects, in a third level, affects what goes on in Central Africa. But while the problems of terrorism are nascent and beginning in Central Africa, this is when the United States should draw the line. But here's the problem with the Central African pipeline that's going through Tanzania. It's financed by a French company called Total and the Chinese offshore drilling operation. So China is gaining a foothold. So the United States needs to decide, and right now there's not a lot of political will. There's a lot of weak leadership in Washington right now. There's a lot of weak moral leadership in Washington right now. This is bad. This is bad for the world. And I know that the need is great, but the hypocrisy and lack of resolve in U.S. policy in Africa has been terrible ever since 1992, or even before then. It just hasn't been thought all the way through. It's been piecemeal. And that's why educating the people that you might come in contact with or that would be spoken to in Washington and other organizations like ExxonMobil, Shell, and other oil companies. Those are the power players. It is about oil. That's the energy that the world runs on. So that's why I've targeted that and hope that the National Unity Party will develop effective advocacy in going to Washington and explaining this is what's happening now, and if we wait another year or 2 years, this is what's going to happen. Look what happened between 1992 and then 5.4 million people were killed in Rwanda. Why? Because there was no military response by the United States. And this is how things can fall apart. But the United States needs to get back on its feet. And I can see how different political philosophies are affecting and affecting the election of 2024, and the results could be catastrophic. So we need to get our U.S. energy policy buckled down, and then we need to realize where it comes from. And so, Dowdy, thank you very much. I hope I've answered part of your question. It's complex, but I hope I have. But you asked specifically, how do we find out what the U.S. agenda is? Now, one of the ways that I would do it when I would go down to lobby is I would find out what was on the clerk of the Senate, and I would go through and find out what meetings are coming up, which congressman. You don't just need one or two. You also need senators. The good senator from Georgia is just reelected. Comes to my hometown every summer. I'll be on Martha's Vineyard when he's there. These are opportunities when we can talk to people and get their attention because they're so caught up in getting reelected. They're always worried about getting reelected. Number two, how can Ugandans overcome the wall of fear? And social media is a tool. Social media is wonderful. It goes everywhere, except some countries. I don't think the People's Republic of China and Venezuela. Venezuela this last week has blocked many social media platforms. China has their own. But thank goodness that Ugandans can still use it and effectively Pounding the message out. Pounding the message out is very important. Continue to do that. I've had a TV show for 18 years. Within a week, I'll be interviewing the chief legal counsel for Israel and asking him about how come the artificial intelligence operators and developers in Israel, some were kidnapped by Iranian terrorists, and asking him pointedly, what can Israel do? What's its response going to be? And he'll tell me. His name is Alan Dershowitz. To overcome the wall of fear, you have to go to the truth and keep sharing the truth. You have to get people to feel that they can listen. That's all you have to have them do. But too many people are tied into the nepotism, and there's almost like a disproportionate or a proportionate amount of people don't want to change. So the biggest question is, how come the U.S. doesn't have the political will? Well, I look at that in terms of the history of the world. Whenever the people have been too comfortable, there's been a lack of political will to do what's right. We've seen the Roman Empire fall. We actually saw that what Britain was doing to the United States back in the 1700s was not just. It was all about taxation. Then 100 years later, the role of slavery in the United States to create the economic engine, thank goodness it was overcome by the smart inventors of machines up in the north, up in Massachusetts, up in New York, that had the factories, so that slavery was not needed, but they couldn't justify it. But some people still wanted to live that way because of habit. And I had at least 4 members of my family that fought in the American Civil War, and they were all killed. And one of them fought at the Battle of Galveston, where Juneteenth was first celebrated, when the blacks were emancipated and given the right to vote. Number 4, what can we do to lobby to understand and get Congress to understand how bad Museveni is? Finding out what the schedule is of Congress, finding out when there are conferences and attending conferences is important, because the majority of you here are citizens, or you have connections in states, and so you do have a voice. And I was amazed as a Senate staff member how senators, there are only 2 per state. So the infrastructure, you got to understand, if you write your congressman, they have small staffs, but a senator has more people because they have more influence. You need to understand that. So when letters would come into our office every day of the week, we'd open them up and we'd divide out the letters by subject, whether it was interstate commerce, foreign affairs, women's rights, different issues, education, taxation. And then we would work with the Library of Congress, and we'd get the answers, we'd get the up-to-date data. We'd put it all in a letter. Then I would show it to one person, and he'd say, yep, that's right. Take it down to the signature room. And I would take the letter that I wrote down to the signature room, and I'd put a big pen in this machine, and it would sign Paul Songus on a letter that I wrote. So you can contact, my recommendation to you is that you get to know your Senate staff members. And then when the senator comes to your district, that you go to those meetings, because they usually go around right before re-election, and go to those meetings and bring up questions, just like you brought up to me today. And you say, hey, how can we get you to understand our plight in Uganda, and how it could influence the United States and the cost of gasoline at the pumps. See? Because everybody wants to have a cup of coffee and a tank full of gas every day. Those are two issues, and most Americans and most people, you know, they want to have a full stomach, they want to have a car full of gas, maybe a cup of coffee every day. So that's how you can remind them every day. Pick on those key issues, put it up on the internet. Anyways, I want to move along here, but I think I've answered most of the questions, and appreciate you very much. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor, for those responses. Again, I want to make a kind request. If you go to get a drink or something to eat, please make sure you do it in a very silent manner. Why? Because if you don't, then you'll distract people who are paying close attention to the conversation that are going on, here. Please and please, that's a kind request. We're going to be moving on to another speaker. I was here, and again, another person was asking a question to Professor about breaking what he defined as the invisible walls of fear. And I'm reminded of the words of Martin Luther King Jr. He said, "We must build the dikes of courage to hold back the floods of fear." And I went back and read some of the comments or posts by kids in Uganda who are going to demonstrate. Let me read you this. This is what he said. This is, I am Emma Chaterekera Ocheng. He said, "No wife, no kids, no house, no nothing. There's nothing to lose for me. I am carrying myself to the streets in march against corruption. In case things go south, tell my mom I tried to make my country better." This is a kid who just posted on social media, said, "I'm going to demonstrate on behalf of my country. And if I die, please tell my parent, this is what I've been doing for my country." This should inspire you. This should motivate you to be like, hey, someone knows that, you know, if I go to do the right thing, I'm going to be killed. But c'est la vie. Such is life. All right. We're going to have Mr. David Sejinja, and he's going to be taking us through ethics and corruption and its costs. One of the things that I really felt extremely mad about was when Honorable Mathias Ampuga allocated himself millions of money, he was hosted on CBS radio. And when he was asked about this money, he didn't deny. He said, "I deserve this money." And when I was making one of my videos, I said, does he really understand the demographics of the people he's speaking to? CBS FM is listened by 90% of people who are not sure that tomorrow they will have food. And is this man, a man who's paid millions of money every month, he says, "I'm just waiting for 500 million shillings. I deserve this sort of appreciation, token of appreciation." And that's why I made a number of videos calling him out. I had some members of parliament in Uganda calling me, "Hey, Mordecai, why are you going personal?" I'm like, come on. Is that a modicum of shame in this man who says, "I'm just waiting for this money," speaking to people who cannot buy shoes, who cannot buy food, who are living the worst kind of lives, and he's like, "I'm just waiting for money." So, Mr. Sejinja, tell us the cost of corruption, hint on the ethics, and all this. You have the floor.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen gathered here this morning, I'm going to cut down my PowerPoint presentation of 30 minutes into 5 minutes. I'm inviting you to be my students once again. In my Thursday leadership training session, I asked all students that were there, why did they come? Why did they leave their homes and families? And why did they ask their bosses at work to come? Why do we come for a 4 days event? May I tell you, comrades, the thing that pains the dictator is knowing of our annual event during his State House briefing. But what is corruption? We so much hear about it. It pains us. And so I'm inviting you to my class, but I'm cutting the class of an hour into 5 minutes so I can give my faculty and colleagues to also participate and share what they have been preparing. Of course, it's the misuse of power. It destroys our lives. I was looking at online statement of a friend, and I could see Wave transaction would remit 90% of the quarterly budget, the money that goes to our people back home. And I'm like, is this what you spend sending money home? He says, yeah. And so in this training, again, we are going to look and explore the insidious effects of corruption on individuals. And so, may I ask you to silence your phone and detach yourself for the 5 minutes of social media for now. Katie, move to the next slide. In a society like ours that is so corroded with corruption and bribery, it tatters us. And it hinders our economic growth. Government officials misuse the power for personal gain. And this leads us to have the mistreatment and mistrust of our local government and officers. It undermines the social cohesion and trust, leading to a decreased civic engagement, collaboration that causes the social and political instability. Next slide, Katie. You and I know the definitions of corruption. That would be my freshman year undergrad students. It's a criminal offense that quite often is corrupted by our Ugandan government officials. Next. It's the common man's blood. It is the cancer that has castigated many of our local officers. Next slide. Does anyone see the dangers of these figures? The absenteeism, the corruption. Kate, can you move that pulpit, please, on the left? Bribing the judicial officers, corruption in the procurement. Does anyone see where we are? Why our country has been hijacked by the wolves and what that leads to us? And why embassies close down doors? And many embassies are going to be closing down doors next year, 2025. The implications of corruption, the loss of productivity.
Youth annually.
3.6 million annually
The
will require
numbers
each of
ladies and gentlemen,
135
speak for
persons.
themselves. We don't
Employ at least
even
51 youth annually.
more.
The numbers, ladies and
The
gentlemen,
loss of
speak for
environmental
themselves.
resources, the rate at which we are destroying our own natural resources, so that better housing and empty complexes are built. You go to Kampala and you find these magnificent complexes, second, third floors are empty. It is only the down basement floor. Bribes and kickbacks. Many of our investors who love Uganda, who are our friends for the country, go there, they catch another straight flight back because they can't wait in their hotels and wait for decisions to be made. So many red flags. The judicial corruption that has eroded our public interest within the people that we so much trust. Of course, you know all these bribery, the embezzlement, the graft, the money laundering, personal greed, low awareness of courage to denounce corruption, so much trust, lack of transparency, promoting someone based solely on loyalty or organization skills, minimizing or responding mildly to corruption allegations and limited authority, to decisively punish and bring those to work. Diversion of public funds, which has eroded against the moral ethics of our beloved country. And feel free to take pictures, although I told you to detach yourself from social media for 5 minutes. But some of this is critical for your presentations as well in the future. And I'll give this PowerPoint to you when we're done with the conference. But the misallocation of resources towards development projects. Many of you ask, why is the US not having the political will to fight against the dictator? That is a big subject that will take us another 1 hour, but we'll see another presentation for another time. Diminished access of fundamental services such as health care, education. Next slide, please. Those are some of the scandals. There are many, about 270. When we last checked, junk helicopters. For our audience from out of the country, Germany and Australia, in America here we're doing differently. We dig deeper to the core. We ask our FBI personnel, field officers, and CIA. We make networks and contacts, and we get briefings for what is happening on the ground. And what did Kofi Annan say? Hey, can you read that for us?
He said, if corruption is a disease, transparency is an essential part of its treatment. Be the cure.
Next slide. How do we avoid corruption? 6 observations: promote transparency and accountability. Technology can be utilized to detect and prevent corruption. Provide citizens with tools and platforms they need to help expose the thieves and the shenanigans of the dictator that he so much uses. Let's get involved with
The dictator that he so much uses. Let's get involved with international organizations and cooperate with them to collaborate with these global entities. Okay? Colleagues, we are coordinating in conjunction. Can you go back to the other? Okay. The one next. Next. Again, next. We had skipped that. Right there. Yeah. So strengthening women is key, but we are coordinating with United Nations in this UNADAC that helps to follow the money. Our FBI colleagues like that. We follow the money whenever it goes. It leads us to get the fingerprints. Who wired what was its purpose and intentions, and it helps us. And so the dictator and his shenanigans are very skilled in hiding the money whenever they think they can hide it, and they think they're pretty getting to be so smart in circumventing and hiding the money under different family members. And so the UN has developed this system of security operatives that help to track jointly within the European Union and our Africa Command to help in following where that money of a specific country, and then where those government corrupt leaders take the money to. And so in the end, once the evidence is brought, then it helps us to know how much money was stolen and where and which banks overseas do we need to freeze that money. And so by the time they know the money has been detected, it's already too late. We've got the money. Let's continue to collaborate with networks. Women should be given leadership positions. Educating 1.8 billion young people on integrity and ethics can build public trust. Ladies and gentlemen, may I submit to you, that's why we are helping to educate, to empower through our American leadership class, the young men and women in Africa, in Kenya and Uganda and the Middle East, to teach them, to raise leaders, so that when we take government, we don't want to be like the Bushmen who didn't know what to do. And that's how our economies are running the way they are running. So combating corruption requires a fundamental shift on mindset, on one that rejects corruption. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm inviting every one of you to use this convention to tackle today's challenges and prepare for the future ones. If we don't educate our young generation about corruption and moral ethics and virtues, they'll also live like the way they have been taught, that when you are corrupt and you bribe money, as long as you keep it in the house, it's still okay. But when you take it away out of country, then you should probably be questioned. That's not what we need to do. And so our focus in helping these students is critical. Katie, can you read that conclusion? Please.
The conclusion states, corruption has a wide-reaching and negative impact on society. It causes economic loss to individuals and companies, damages democratic processes, and creates greater social inequalities. By reducing corruption and encouraging transparency in all public life, governments can generate fairer societies with more equitable outcomes for their citizens. This is essential to build a better future for us all.
Thank you very much. Next slide. So we must all stop corruption, ladies and gentlemen. We must all be defiant and do the very best to stop this stigma. Next. My assignment for you today that would want to get our leadership certificate, do not write the 2-page paper analysis paper today, but at least do the very best in your hotel rooms before going to the boat tonight to at least write me a half a page. In that half-page paper, I want you to discuss corruption and how to combat it. Which countries are the most corrupt? Those are basics. What are the common characteristics of Uganda with its high corruption? Discuss the magnitude of corruption in Uganda. Do higher wages for bureaucrats reduce corruption in Uganda? Submit your answers to me by Saturday today, but I'll extend that tomorrow for Sunday under the American Leadership 94 at gmail.com. And then I'll get those names for those that would be the best to issue our certificates of attendance for this conference. Okay? Thank you very much. And those are the references that you'll be tackling, and then we shall continue from there. Thank you very much. Our power.
Let's do it one more time. People power. Our power. Let's do it in people power energy. People power. Our power. Thank you so much, Professor, Mr. Sejinja, and Katie. Thank you so much for that. Amazing. Listening to what was said, I wrote down the quote from Kofi Annan. Very wonderful. It says, if corruption is a disease, then transparency is a central part of its treatment. Be the cure. Now, let me tell you a very short story. When I was in Uganda, I used to work on radio and TV. And every time I went for a press conference, they used to give us some sort of a bribe. And do you know how they called it? Facilitation. So you'd go to cover an event, and then they tell you, please write down your names. And by the end of a press conference, then a guy calls you in a certain room and starts handing you some $20 or $30 or $50. At one time, I was thinking about this, and it was some sort of an epiphany. I'm like, this is a bribe, because one of the guys from the Ministry of Health called me and says, Mordecai, I didn't see my story on the 9 p.m. news. I'm like, yeah, because the editor, decides which story is going to be airing and not. And then it's like, but I gave you my money. I'm like, oh, okay. That's when I started saying, no more taking these cold facilitation. And that, by doing that, I became the cure. I never received any call anymore. I just went to an event and cover it and, come hand over my story to my editor, and that's it. And I can't guarantee you, my folks who used to get all those facilitations were always questioned, receiving calls and messages, or sometimes even threats. I gave you my money and you're not running, my story. So please, let's be the cure. Let's be the cure. All right. Our next speaker is none other than Mr. Tim. I let him pronounce the second name.
Thank you. Okay, cool. Perfect. How's everyone doing? Good. I am having a wonderful time here, and I want to thank you all for your kindness and generosity to allow me to be here and speak to you. So in a few minutes, we'll get the PowerPoint presentation set. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about what I'll actually talk about. Is while I was researching stuff for this presentation, I realized it wasn't who I was as a person, and it didn't go against values, but it went against how I like to work with people. So in this presentation, at some point, I'm going to ask you all to stand up and participate actually within my presentation. And we're going to go through some different, hopefully eye-opening things. And you don't have to stand up right now, sorry. Please relax. Thank you for your, I like that. You're ready to go. So we'll get to that in just a second. I appreciate that. But yeah, so a lot of us have strengths in certain places. And when we show the presentation here, we're going to see that we all have certain strengths and we all do certain things. But those can change. And we're going to talk about what's like a sliding scale when it comes to our leadership. So hopefully we'll be here in a second. Enjoy your table, and I'll get back to you in just a second. All right, thank you. All right, well, we'll get started now. So my presentation is on challenges for political parties. And during my research, I realized that political parties either make us happy or make us angry. But in most of what we have with our political parties is that there is a view. There's our view, there's their view, there's someone else's view. And so what I realized is that it comes down to power. And then as I was dissecting the presentation, I realized that each of us have power, and power to share with others. And we have to recognize that. And so today what we're going to talk about, we're going to go through an exercise. I come from an outdoor world. I come from an experiential education world where it's not all about me telling you what to do. It's about you doing it and you being put in that space to make those decisions. So I teach people to make decisions. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make some decisions, and then our decisions may change through this. So we're going to talk about leadership, conflict resolution, corruption, and ethics. Our answers aren't going to be wrong, and our answers aren't going to be right. So that's how I want you to start thinking about that, all right? So any questions? All right, so if everyone can stand up, make sure you're not next to someone in case you bump into them. So when you hit it, oh, I knew that shifted, okay. So you'll hit it once, and then the question. All right, so for some reason my PowerPoint didn't work. So a question will pop up, and if you agree with the question, you'll take one step to the left towards Katie, and that means you agree with the statement. If you don't agree with the statement, and unfortunately disagree is over there, you'll step to the right. So currently you are neutral. So in this activity, you cannot stay neutral. You have to pick right or left. And usually when I do this, and when we have more space and room, we take larger steps to see where we are on a continuum. And that continuum can shift based on what's going on at that moment. All right? So here's our first question. A good leader always strives to be liked by their team. So if you agree with that statement, step to the left. If you disagree, step to the right. And there is no right or wrong answer. It's what you feel inside. So disagree, you're going to come towards me. If you agree, you'll step towards Katie. So, hey, just take one step. Yeah, right now we'll just take one step so we don't bump into people. Just one step. And it can be a tiny step or a little bit bigger step, however you feel. All right, so good leaders should always strive to be liked by their team. So now we're going to raise a situation. So, all right, so we can't read that. I apologize. I'm not very good at this. This is not one of my strengths. Interfering with deadlines. So when you are liked by your team, can deadlines, things that are due, do you struggle with that, or can you struggle with that? All right, so what would you do now? Because at this point, a deadline, you can't be liked, right? So you have to shift a little, right? So you may have stepped to the left. Now I want you to step again. Do you stay where you're at, or do you shift? And there's no right answer or wrong answer. This is internal for you to think about. So I would shift. I would shift to the dislike, right? Like, deadlines are hard, and if it's interfering, we have to shift. We'll go on to the next one. A leader focusing on achieving results and being tough on their team. So, as a leader, are you focused on achieving results and being tough on your team? Do you agree or disagree? So, take your step so you can actually be in it. All right. So let's hit the next one. All right. So sometimes when we are too tough on our team, we can cause resentment and stress on our team. So you have to find that balance, right? So whatever you are doing, wherever you are working, whatever, like even on your social media and having a platform to help, you have to know when people are able to handle you being tough on them. We live in a very different world now where probably the way we were raised by our parents is very different than how we are raising our children, right? Or if you look at children nowadays and be like, oh my gosh, if you saw my mom, she would have slapped me for that. So within this space, we're just learning, right? We're learning a little bit about ourselves. So we learned a little bit about leadership. Let's step to the next. All right, conflict resolution, happening all the time. It happens within our family, happens within our world, happens within our job. So, don't mind hitting it? All right, so here's your statement. Avoid addressing minor conflicts to keep the peace. Do you agree with that or disagree? Cool. So we'll hit the next one. Okay. So we want to ignore maybe that conflict, right, to keep the peace. But what happens if you have a staff member that's showing up late to work every day and now it's causing resentment to other people? Sometimes you have to address it in the moment, right? So would you shift this to addressing somebody? If you're paying somebody to be at work at 8 o'clock and they keep coming in late, would you address that person? All right, so we shift, right? So what we're grasping here is this continuum of leadership and understanding. So awesome, perfect. Better to give in during a disagreement to avoid escalating the conflict. Do you agree with that situation or do you disagree? Okay, so make your step. Next one. All right. So, what happens when you give in and it undermines your needs or values? Right? So we're all in this room right now fighting for a better Uganda because it undermines our needs and values for our land that we're from. So sometimes giving in is not the way to go. Sometimes it is not. So you have to find that out. Next one. Right, we're going to talk about corruption a little bit. So, first one. You go to work. Somebody gives you a small gift. Do you accept that gift? Somebody brings you coffee. Do you accept that coffee? Okay. So I bring you coffee. Awesome. Okay. Now, what if I decide to ask you to stay late at work and not pay you and use that coffee against you? That's corruption, right? So we have to find that balance of what it means because people will use that against you. If you're accepting something all the time, potentially your supervisor might be asking something that goes against your conflict of interest. Or vice versa. If you are someone who gives stuff, you have to make sure there's a fine line between a gift to corruption, right? It can drop real quick. So we want to be aware of that. Next one. All right, turning a blind eye to corruption within your organization. Do you agree with that or disagree? All right. Next one. All right. So now, self-preservation comes into play. You are going to lose your job if you say something. Right now, think about it. Where you are working right now, if you say something, would you say something to lose your job right now? Now, sometimes this is a hard thing to do, right? Self-preservation within your work. You know, you may have a family that you're supporting, and losing a job might be hard, right? So you might stay within turning the blind eye. We'll go to the next one. We're going to talk about ethics real quick. So first one, Katie. All right. Cutting corners at work to meet a deadline. Do you agree with that or disagree? I'm telling you, this needs to be done. Get it done. Are you going to cut corners to meet that deadline? All right. All right. So what this does is this can compromise personal and professional standards if you do that. So when we sit there and think about this, and I'm not saying you are at all by any means, but you may have employees or coworkers that do this, right? And you watch them, that really lays down the line that their professional standards at your work aren't very high. So, is it ethical to break the law? Do you agree or disagree? I heard someone. Okay. So, when we talk about laws, if it's ethical to break it, what if that law is unjust? Or do you disobey it and break it for a higher moral principle? That's revolution, right? That is when you're talking about someone puts a law in effect that goes against an unjust thing, we may need to step up and break the law. Because we're sitting here trying to find a place where we come to a common ground. And so what this presentation was really for is our life sits on a continuum. Sometimes we're to the right, and sometimes we're to the left. And in that, when you are doing things, when you are teaching, when you are learning, when you are educating others, we want to talk about this continuum. Sometimes it is okay to agree, and it's okay to disagree. So, last page, Katie. So this is something that I stand strong on. Self-discovery is our greatest tool. The more that we know about ourselves, the better we can understand others. So we need to know what we're good at, and we need to know what we're not good at. I'm not good at a lot of things, but I'm good at a lot of things. So trying to understand this is you have to keep discovering things about yourself. There might be things you don't like about yourself, but if you discover that, maybe you can work on it. And the thing I'm going to leave you with here is, what is the change that you want to see? So when you are discovering things about yourself and you are sharing with others, what do you want to see? So I want to thank you. You all can take a seat now. I appreciate you standing up and being part of this. A lot of times when we lecture and we talk, we sit here and we just listen, right? But actually being able to step into it and actually make those decisions right on the spot is a good way of learning. And this is what we are trying to do within the American Leadership class that all of us teach in, is giving our young students or even our more experienced adults a chance to make certain decisions in a safe, protected space to see where that can take them through learning. So the last thing I'll say before I leave, and it's a mantra that I live by every day, is just be better tomorrow. Whatever today looks like, be better tomorrow. I want to thank you for your time, and thank you for participating, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Allow me to say, Mr. Tim. I won't pronounce the last name again. Awesome. Well, how do you translate kasavu kanyama in English? Gender balance. That's a total lie. What is kasavu kanyama? What I'm trying to say is we signed up for there's a mixed tray. All right, to get it out. So we have a mixed tray here, Kasavu Kanyama. We signed up for a conference, and I can guarantee you that most of us are going to leave this place well versed with in history. We've had a history class here, geopolitics, philosophy, to mention but a few. But I like what you said, Mr. Tim. Our life sits on a continuum, sometimes on the left and sometimes on the right. I think reason and maturity lies in recognizing the balance between the two. Thank you so much. Well, you saw some changes or adjustments being made here. That indicates to you that the president and the rest of other people are going to be arriving very soon. So get ready. And if you've just arrived, please, you can go on and get something to drink, get something to eat, but do it in total silence, such that you do not distract other people. I want to take this opportunity to recognize the presence of the Deputy Vice President, Madam Rina Zedriga. Our power. And you know what I do? I usually, I will again ask you to do it in a very people power way. People power. Our power. People power. Our power. Ra. Oh yeah. Cha. So, yes, and then I want to recognize the presence of Professor Ali Mahdi. Awesome. Our power. People power. Awesome. Well, now we're going to have the last speaker in this session. That will be Katie. Now, you'll forgive me. I have a colleague of mine at work. Her name is Katie. So I get a confusion between Katie. How do you pronounce your name? Is it okay?
It's okay. You're perfect.
Perfect. And she's going to be covering hope through perseverance. Now, yeah, this is why I take this opportunity to tell you, I spent the whole of last year writing my book. I'm detailing my story of how I was born and raised in abject poverty. I was able to go through school, paying myself through school, and I was able to graduate with a bachelor's degree in mass communication and journalism. It might be a small thing to you, but it took me almost everything. And she's going to be telling us, how do we maintain that hope? I have a chapter in the book where I talk about the beauty, the importance of hope. She's not going to be talking about my book, of course, but she's going to be telling us hope through perseverance. I mean, we are up against a regime that's been in power for 40 years. Some people might look at us and be like, come on, you can't do nothing. I mean, this man has built himself. It's an entire establishment. How do we maintain that hope regardless? How do we continue telling people that, hey, we can stand up and speak against this regime, despite of the fact that Olivia Lutaya is still jailed, despite of the fact that Akileo Chivumbi was abducted, despite of the fact that other people are being abducted, tortured, and killed? How do we continue telling Ugandans that, hey, we can still do it? Hope through perseverance. Katie?
Thank you for that incredible introduction and that a little bit of an intimidating expectation. However, I hope to not only meet it, but jump over it. Thank you. My PowerPoint is not up yet, but that will not stop me from beginning. My beloved friends, we have gathered here at this conference to learn, connect, find joy in togetherness, and most importantly, to support each other. We do this through our actions and through communicating our personal experience as well as our collective experiences. I have been strengthened and educated by those who have shared their experiences before me. Our hearts together today sing. They sing of democracy, freedom from oppression, and love. It is that love that I speak of today, because in the end, hope is only given through love. Looking over this crowd today, I see many people that I love dearly, many who have inspired me, many who have built me up, and many who have taken my words to heart, which is the greatest form of respect I can think of. As I look at our long hike to democracy, I see how difficult it is, but not impossible. I am reminded of a trip I took with my daughter, with my 4 children. Yes, I have 4 children. They are the light in the life of my world. I don't know how I got so lucky, but I got the very best 4 children. But I took my 4 children on a hike. This was a hike up to Arches National Park, For those who are unfamiliar, it is a beautiful arch made of stone. It's natural beauty, not hewn by man, simply created by the environment around us. It's enormous and it holds strong. I wanted to show my children the beauty of the world. We began our hike with light feet and a song in our mouths. As the day wore on, the sun began to become hot. Our feet began to ache. The rock was hard beneath our feet, causing tremendous pain in our heels, but we persevere. As we went, my smallest child, at the time 7, Amelia, began to fall behind. Amelia is strong. She is brave. She is capable, but she is small. And as we hiked, her little body began to fail a little, just a little. So at this time, I looked at my other children. I gave them direction to go ahead, continue forward, follow the path, and wait for us at the top. My other 3 children are large and capable, and they went ahead. As my stride matched that of my little 7-year-old Amelia's, I came to her to give her that support. I smiled at Amelia. She could see her siblings going ahead of her, and she might have felt a little bad that she was not able to be there with them. But I told her how brave she was, how capable she was, how a 7-year-old taking on this hike was such a feat of strength, how proud I was as her mother that she even tried. My little Amelia, I told her, I know it is hard, but we must keep moving forward because where we are going is worth it. We must persevere. My little sweet daughter, she's 11 now, but at that time she asked me, what does persevere mean? And never letting an opportunity for education go by, I let her know with an analogy. I asked her, you know where we're going? And she said, yes, we are going to go see Delicate Arch, a beautiful, beautiful rock formation that I've seen pictures of that many people come from around the world to see. We're going to go see that. And I asked her, is that worth it? And she said, yes. Then I asked her something interesting. Do you know how Delicate Arch was formed? Do you know how it came to be? Or has it always been there? And Amelia, being the wise little 7-year-old, she knew that it hadn't always been there. She said, no, Mother, how was Delicate Arch formed? I again started with another analogy. I took our water bottle out, and I dripped some water on the ground. And I said, Amelia, what is this? And she responds, it is water, Mother, obviously. And I said, when you see water, what do you think? She responds, I think hydration. I think cooling me off right now because it's really hot out here. I think that we need it to survive. And I said, excellent, my beautiful, smart daughter. Did you know it also has the power to change your environment? Each individual drop, one by one, can move mountains. I waved my hand at this huge boulder we were standing by at the moment and said, do you think water can change this rock? And my daughter looks at the water bottle, and then she looks at the rock and thinks, no, Mom, I don't think water can remove this rock. And then I smiled at her because this was a very reasonable conclusion. That is when I had her turn around. We had come far on our hike. We were high up in the hills, and I had her turn around and look at the valley below. It had orange, red, white, little light browns, dark browns. It was stunning. We were looking at part of the Grand Canyon, a large canyon that cuts through the heart of our country, and it is magnificent. When I looked at Amelia, I asked her, what created this? And she said, oh, that's delicate arch. She said, Mom, I'm guessing it's water because we're kind of going that way. And she's a smart, clever girl, and she was right. Each drop of water created another opportunity to change their environment. Water is amazing. Today, apologies. We continued down the path, renewed. Amelia had a little skip in her step, as when we educate, we no longer fear, and it becomes less difficult. We don't tell you to become educated because we want more work for you, because we want you to write papers, and we want you to be bored, and we think that that's the only way to do it. We want you to be educated because that is the tool against ignorance. That is the tool against becoming victims. I know. I have been a single mother for 3 years. I am lucky today to have a wonderful boyfriend who supports me. But in that time, but in those years, I learned how to do everything. I was not going to be a victim. I know how to run all of these computer things. I know what those cords mean. I know how to change a tire. I can change my oil. I can do everything that has come my way. And I can do that because I am strong. And I learned that because I know the value of education. I knew what I didn't know. I didn't know how to change a tire. So I looked it up. I learned. The other day, I didn't know how to make a loaf of bread using very specific ingredients. I'm allergic to wheat now. I have to learn how to do it without wheat. But because I didn't know, I got to learn something new. I learned how to bake without wheat. Yeah, that was a big win for me. So as I teach my children about this education that has created nothing but opportunity for me, I share that with you. Become educated. Do not let other people do things for you that you don't need them to do. That doesn't mean don't ask for help. Oh, dear God, ask for help. Don't think we can do this alone. But always be prepared to do it alone. Nobody wants to be alone. Nobody wants to battle alone. But sometimes that battle is only ours. Sometimes that battle is only our own. I will never say no to help, but I will never step down from a battle that needs to be won. So, back to my beautiful girl. As we walked with her renewed knowledge and her renewed education, we came around the corner and we saw a delicate arch, and her eyes blossomed. It was beautiful. She reached the place we were trying to get to. We did it. It was incredible to see her beautiful green eyes light up in such a way as she understood and was able to put into practice those things that I taught her. My wonderful friends, our fight is real. It is hard. And I am tired. I will not tell you that I'm not, because that looks strong. Strength does not come from ignoring reality. Strength comes from knowing what is going on, feeling it, letting us drive us, and then moving forward, putting those steps one before the other. But as I think about the fight that is before us, as I see the draining in our eyes, the disappointment when things don't go our way, the tragedy of when a friend is taken. My friends, sometimes it brings me so far down that I have to come up with a new way to reason it out. And because I am who I am and I know myself, much like Professor Tim told us, you must know yourself. I know that when I feel this way, writing a poem helps. And I wish to share that with you in hopes that it will renew you as well. It begins. The breath of weariness resides in me, pushing down my desire for truth in exchange for complacency. My darkness floods my field of vision, calling shadow of doubt. My foolish thinking is building a wall of apathy. Oh, look down. Look down. Look down. There is dew on the grass. There is sunlight freely given. There is love for my children, and there is a drumbeat in my heart. Ever true is the breath of the weary. Ever true, still, ever truer is the loveliness of the love that surrounds. Small is my anxiety when the world is full of such loveliness. Small is my weakness when my heart is so strong. Fragile is the darkness. The sun shines so bright. Hope cannot be taken. It can only be given. Look down, for that is where the roots of beginning reside. Keep reaching. It is in our persistence that we will overcome. Sisters and brothers, and you are my sisters and brothers. Persistence in our, forgive me. Our battles may feel small. Our influence may seem insignificant, and our efforts to change it may seem foolish. But nothing is so large that persistence cannot overcome it. We are each a drop of rain. Every person we bring into this organization, every dollar we raise, every time we have an action, every time we write a letter to our congressman, every time we come to an event like this, it is one more drop of rain. And every time we add to that drop of rain, we build an absolute downpour of change. Let us be that downpour. Let us create the Grand Canyon. Let us take down those who would oppress and fill it with love, hope, and change. This can be done, and we will do it. People power.
Our power.
Our power.
People power.
NUP.
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
NUP.
Thank you, my sisters and brothers. I love you.
Oh my God. Yeah. Imagine that. What can I say? But we can build our Grand Canyons. You know, let me tell you a story. There's a man, he referred to himself as President for Life, Idi Amin. He was defeated. Pol Pot was defeated. There was a man in Congo, Mobutu Sese Seko Kuku Mbembe was a banger. He was defeated. Hitler was defeated. Mussolini, Stalin, all of them. Muammar Gaddafi, Yahya Junkungu Jammeh in Gambia, they all went down. Museveni will go down. Our power. People power. Thank you so much for that wonderful speech. Well, like I told you, we have our people here. They're going to be joining us in a few. The Secretary General, Lois Lubongoya, the Deputy President, Waiswa Mufumbiro, the Deputy Spokesperson, Waiswa Mufumbiro, the spokesperson, Joel Senyonyi, and the leader of opposition as well. And then the president himself, Robert Chagulanyi Ssentamu, Bobiwine, will be joining us in a few. So be excited. But before they do, you wanted...
Jim and Tim, can you come up front here, please? Let's clap for them, ladies and gentlemen. Katie, come here. Come here, darling. Katie, right. Comrades, the strength and the courage to empower our people power comrades and our foot soldiers, both in Uganda and here, isn't easy. I can't do it by myself without the help and the sacrifice of my faculty and staff here. People power. And so it goes to say our People Power National Unity Platform has excelled and is the best in putting on the best conferences ever as we started them. And so my colleagues here do so much. They do a lot of research. And every time when a phone call comes from Dr. Kauma, I just answer and says, David, I want you and your People Power leadership team to show up at this date, this time, this is the topic, we want you to teach this. And so they do it. They are given 2 weeks and they do the very best. And sometimes I nag them and I push them and they push me. We debate, we dialogue. We look at the process of our revolution. What are the failures? What are the weaknesses? Where are we at as a people? How are we climbing to the mountain top? And so, colleagues, may I submit to you that we together, all of us, can do something. And we will do something. We are not alone. We are never alone. We can't walk alone. And we will persevere, no retreat, no surrender. People power. Our power. Thank you very much, Professor Tim and Jim and every one of you. Thank you, Katie.
Stay here for a second. People power. Our power. So we have a small token of appreciation to our guests, and I'm going to request our Vice President. In NUP, we coronate you once you join us, and we have a symbol that we put on your head as a welcome sign to our movement, to our values, and to our beliefs. So I'm going to ask our Vice President to give this token of appreciation to each of our presenters. And if you want to say a few words. Thank you.
Please, you could save it for His Excellency. Wow. I was almost refusing because I know His Excellency Robert Chagulanyi Sentamu Obini Musinguzi is present. However, if you trust me that I am able, I am very honored on behalf of us all, the National Unity Platform Party, Diaspora, and also back home. Honorable Naluima is even present, and Shadow Minister, hey, Nzani, hey, and the members of Parliament, you know, please, 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 muje mwena, muje. Muje, the more the merrier. Eh? Yes. I now commission the two of you representing the Parliament of Uganda and the people who rightfully elected the de facto and de jure president of the Republic of Uganda, His Excellency Robert, whom I am humbled to deputize that you crown these people and welcome them without any reservations to the NUP, the one and only winning party.
Thank you so much, Deputy. Tuliyambale ngule, tuliyambale ngule, tuliyambale ngule, olutalo nga luwedde tuliyambale ngule ulivimba mu Uganda empya. When the struggle is over, we shall wear the victor's crown. We shall wear the victor's crown. We shall wear the victor's crown. When the struggle is over, we shall wear the victor's crown in the new Uganda. People power, our power, Ra-ah-cha.
Well, power, our power, people power. Kunga Chicago, kunga diaspora, kunga Honorable Naluima, kunga our MPs here present, kunga each one of you here present, kunga. And kunga, our Dr. Kunga. You see?
That token appreciation came from the Texas chapter. Is the one which NUP Texas chapter.
This our power everywhere. NUP. I would like therefore to say this is a symbol of victory, and we earn it through perseverance. We earn it. You have earned it. And it has been generously given by the Texas chapter. Texas chapter! Hey, Texas chapter. So you are officially members of NUP, and we are really very, very grateful, and we would like to walk with you to that canyon. Thank you.
Thank you, President.
Thank you. Thank you.
The newest members of the National Unity Platform. At least we now sure that we have 4 of them. Amazing. People power, our power. People power, our power. Ra, cha. Oh yeah. So that's very amazing. I've been impressed by all the speakers that we had. You see the preparations are going on now. All those are signs that should indicate that the president is almost here. Now, we're going to have the Honorable speak to us. More especially, remember, we were told and we know that she's one of the few that we have that are committed to the struggle. We don't question her commitment to the struggle. So, Honorable Naluimbas, please come and speak to these wonderful people. People, our power. People power.
People power, our power, NUP, Chagulanyi. Now the voices have reduced. Chagulanyi is our president. Chagulanyi. Wow, thank you so much, our Deputy President. The Honorable colleague, Honorable Solo Kayemba, the Honorable leaders of this diaspora community, including the President, who was the contact person, and others like Joel. Honorable ladies and gentlemen, protocol observed. Allow me to stand over it because of time. Once again, my name is Betty Ethonaluyima. I'm the woman MP for Wakiso District. I'm the shadow minister for local governments. And as you've heard, we've just brought in composition our parliamentary caucus. I'm the deputy to Honorable Zaki of the parliamentary caucus. We've said, and a lot has been said, but allow me to join each and every person who has appreciated all of you in what you are doing to see that Uganda is at peace, to see that we have a lovely country. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I cannot forward that thank you anymore, but I want to appreciate you. Thanks for ensuring that at least you aid us to check the government in power, because you are aware we don't have any other country. Mikwano tetulinayo nsi ndala. Nawe mbanga muli eno tulina ensi called Uganda. I am aware that some of you may be already citizens this side, but you have one home country where you originated from. So the matters of liberating Uganda, when we talk about a better Uganda, when we talk about a new Uganda, it takes a step by you and me. We all of us have a great role to play. Thank you so much for that. At least a lot has said, and for me I'm so grateful that as we sit here, as we sit in this room, we already know what we are supposed to be done. We only pray to the Almighty God that one day, one time, we fulfill all our plans we have, because we have to push on. We have to see that our country gets better. Whatever the case means, whatever it takes, we have to see that we have a better Uganda. I'm telling you, as Ronald Reagan put it, that good citizenship and defending democracy means living up to the ideals and values that make this country. By then, for him, it was for this country. But now we are saying that makes Uganda great. So we want to see that we make Uganda a great home. We want to see that when you say you want to come back home, you feel there is no fear. When you want to come back home, there is democracy. When you want to come back home, there is rule of law. Everything is good as far as paperwork is concerned. But when it comes to implementation, we are having the junta. We have someone who feels that taking those Ugandans through tyranny is the way forward. But we are here to join you. We are here to be home there, to say no. And we stand by it. Thanks to our president, Honorable Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, is leading us, but takes each and every other person to understand the leadership and to understand that is leading us, but we are also supposed to be leaders in one way or the other. We've talked about education and trainings. We can't put that aside. And we have to be more and more united. People, let's understand this. The person we are fighting is over 40 years in power. He has stood in state. He has engulfed state with him. Tebikyaliko na kugamba nti no, probably it's over the army is there or what. Now everything is him. Everyone is there but him. So we have now to understand the junta and who we are fighting. We are aware of what is taking place, but we need now to be more and more united. We need all Ugandans to understand the cause. We need each and every person sensitized of what needs to be done. We cannot stand in this alone. We thank you for such mobilizations, but still we all together, all of us still have to do more and more to make Ugandans understand what is happening. Baleme kutunulao nti bannange era mmwe abakulembeze, bannange oba mmwe aba diaspora mugamba ki? No, we have a duty to make all Ugandans understand that wherever you are, no matter the continent, you have a duty to see that Uganda is free. So that's now our major role. And to see who are those forces, who are those friendly forces that can come with NUP to liberate Uganda. Who is that other person worldwide to come and understand Uganda is going through, because there is that cosmetic thinking that Uganda is free. Not everyone is understanding what can be done, so let's work together. That please stand up once again, because the kind of struggle we are holding on is not a one-man struggle. It's not this other person to go for us, but we have to move together. Because of time, allow me to just remind you 2-3 things, and we check ourselves. Are they there? When we talk about characteristics of democracy, respect for basic human rights, do we still have any? Nothing. Talk about abductions. Talk about the failure to even accept political settings to sit. We want to thank such countries that have moved on to embrace democracy, like US, that we can sit here as national unity platform and we discuss a way forward for Uganda. But my deputy president will testify, if we even have those trails, that day the secretariat finishes booking, we spend all the money, but you cannot even express yourself on a radio, which you already paid for. You cannot use the ground that has already been supposed to be used and that we paid for. You cannot use it. You cannot have that freedom of expression. Are we still having those basic principles of human rights in this country? We are women leaders, but some time back you saw us in black Gomez's demonstrating. We cannot hold functions. We can't meet our constituents to talk to them. We can't meet the women. And we see how best someone is fearing that when Naluyima meets these women, they will get more and more enlightened. That's why I'm saying, please, let's never give up. And we are glad for the previous poem we've just heard, because this is our road together. We should not allow, but we need to sensitize each and every Ugandan. We look for those friendly forces. We look for everyone. Tulina okusindika, and not at any one time get tired. Kubanga we are at a hill. If we give up, it will just rush back and hit us, and we shall all get down. So let's work together and see that we have our Uganda. We don't have any other home. We don't have any other country called home. We only have one Uganda. No matter what it takes, let's stand up and say that Museveni, the dictator, has to go, and all his forces very far away, because we have to defend Uganda. We have to defend our country. We have to defend of who we are in this world. We want to thank you so much. We shall stand home. We shall be there. We shall get back home. And for us, we are ready to see that we have a better country. Our role is to make each and every other person understand. But thanks to our president, thank you to you all who have made it, and those who have not made it, but they are with us. We thank you for those encouraging messages you always give us. You push us. Please don't give up, because together we shall win. We are fighting the battle wherever they are. We'll look for space at parliament, but we do our best. We are telling you, because we are aware of the problem, let's not change focus, and let's not change guns. We understand some gaps might be there, but let's not change guns. The biggest problem of Uganda, we are aware about it. Let's see that we focus to remove the problem. When we remove the problem, we shall have a new Uganda. We shall be there. I thank you, and thank you so much.
People power, our power. I love the energy in the room. DJ oboga twaya kayima soke nkone muziki. Ngabo tweteke. Narumansi. Why Narumansi of all songs? Oh my. I remember we had a wonderful time with Wade Mutraine Wise or try to Manarumansi. It's going to take a few minutes. The president is on his way. But for now, we're going to have Honorable Kayem. And then tunaloza kucha entertainment. People power, our power, Honorable.
Thank you very much, my brother. Molodokai, a very old name from a young man. You see, it's quite challenging to speak at the audience, which has people that are more educated than you, that have better experiences, and maybe better English, because mine is from Chiriamenvu. But I'm the only one who has to speak at this time. No option. I'm Geoffrey Kayemba Solo. I'm known as Manager Kayemba. I'm an artist manager. I have a record label that manages artists. And I'm also a FIFA certified football agent. My brother Kanyomos will testify that. I'm one of the few people that have licenses in Africa to sell players worldwide. I've been here since this convention started. From Boston to LA to DC, now here. I think I'm the only leader that have been here always. The reason why I'm here is because of the power the diaspora people have to our struggle. I can say without you, we would move, but we would not move far as we have moved. Thank you very much.
Yes guys, mulimu ka network glitch. Naba network etandise okuchankalana here and there, naye just bear with me. For those batategera kigenda maaso, this is the NUP Diaspora Convention. It's taking place in Chicago this year 2024. And the president, His Excellency Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert, aka Bobiwine, he's in the building. Anytime soon, agenda kubayogera kerife. So just relax. And by the way, continue sharing this video far and wide in those Facebook groups, in those WhatsApp groups, as well as on your platforms, mobile platforms. Keep sharing, keep encouraging your friends to come and listen to, and of course also watch what's going on. Set up nonji nyo buli kimu kiri crystal clear. President tanaba kwogera nenga anytime soon agenda kubeeranga aweebwa omukisa ate ayogere nga chief guest. Mulimu ka network glitch, nkugambye ogenda tugumiikirizaako network esooka eterere bulungi nnyo, then ate nsooka enkuzeeyo bulungi nnyo. Ndowooza the way I see things erabika eteredde. John Sempala, Habati, Nalobega, Godfrey, mwena mbalengera, Ivan Katongole n'abalala mwena. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching. Keep sharing. Keep pushing this video far and wide. This is the JB Muwonge. By the way, we are not going to have a talk show today because of the ongoing convention in Chicago. Yeah, today I decided to just stream relay this for you because you also need it.
Again, can we go and make a rally anywhere? Impossible. You saw the youth who wanted to come over and protest against the injustices in our country. One of the ladies was pregnant. I don't know what happened to her. Others are still in prison up to now. That's the system, and that's the environment where we are operating in the country. But what should we do? Should we withdraw? No. We have no option. We have to be resilient. We have to persevere. We have to, because this is the only option. We have to remove the dictator. How will we tell our children, our grandchildren, that we are there when all these things were happening? That's why I left whatever I was doing, and I said I have to be and participate in this. Many people say If you're a member of parliament, now you're okay. Everything is okay. And you have people saying, now for you, you have positions. Positions for what? Who told you that MPs are the richest people in the country? Unless you were a thief. Actually, people whom we do the same profession, the same professionals who have record labels, who are agents, are very, very, very rich people. Very rich. Parliament is only a very few. And you can see that after people leaving parliament, many of them, you look at them and say, what happened, my brother? When you are there, you look to be okay. No one is safe. We are not in the parliament because we want money, because unless you're a thief, it's not there. All the services that the government had to do to the people, it failed. It's the MP who has to go and do the well. It's the MP who has to build an health center. At the end of the day, what will you stay with? Nothing. But should we go and say, now, let me go and sell my players in Manu and leave this? My mother is in Chiriamenvu. There is no any single health center in that sub-county. Problem can come anytime. Where will she go? If I say, let me leave those things. So I want to thank you all for giving us shoulders to lean on, for pushing us always to have a better country. I'm sure we'll have it. In a country where everyone is accountable, everyone wins. Should I repeat that? In a country where everyone is accountable, everyone wins. But the country where we come from in Uganda, not everyone is accountable. That's why you see, we always lose out. As I'm finishing, because according to me, I've spoken too much English. So as I'm concluding, we all know the story of the Israelites. How they left Egypt. Remember that journey. It's in the Bible. It was a hotter one. Hotter than what we are facing. Even, you remember when people reached somewhere and they told Moses, where are you taking us? Where you got us from? We are in prison, we are hungry, but we used to get food. We used to get water. We are here suffering. Take us back into prison. Where? That's the things we are facing. Those are the brothers who you see and sisters whom have been moving together, and at the end of the day, they turned back to the dictator. But did that stop the Israelites from reaching the promised land? No. I want to give you hope. It's not like eating mandas or kabaragara. It's a hassle. Taking away dictator that had spent 40 years in power. It needs too much commitment. And it also needs motivation. Because at times you stay alone home and you say, now, what are we going to do? If you don't get a phone call from a friend, you might end up dying in your own house, or going somewhere, and you seek for exile anywhere. So that's why we thank you. And whenever we look at your responses on social media, because social media now is strong, it's better than actual mainstream media. So whenever we see you, we appreciate. But again, as good as social media has done us, but at times it also does us bad. Because also the dictator is trying to use it. People like us put on a red beret, like our friend has done, the new member. Some people do the same. The dictators are the same. People speak in their way, they do their way, so that people can get rid of NUP. But we agree, this generation is better than that. For those who do that, will remain there, and we shall go and reach the promised land. Thank you very much. I'm Kayemba Sol again, from Bokoma Simbi South. That's my constituency. I'm the shadow minister for sports. People power. Our power. Babo Ruzungu ndo maziniri rubadero wangu.
Fiza mumazeyo. Nange luyinza okuba lumpeddeko. Thank you so much, Honorable, for that wonderful communication. Well, please do not lose hope. Let us not be the Israelites who are blaming Moses. Kayimba kajja. Let us not, be the Israelites who are blaming Moses. Martin Luther King reminds us that the arc of moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. Change takes a long time, but it eventually happens. Doesn't matter how long, we must continue pushing without losing hope. Change is coming. Allow me invite Professor Ali Mahdi to take the stage. Our power, people power, everyone.
Yes, this is the NUP Diaspora Convention 2024. We are live streaming all the way from Chicago. And it's just getting started. For those who are asking whether it's ending, no, it's just getting started. Just getting started. Yeah, Professor Ali Mahdi.
Oh, yeah. Bobiwine. Oh, yeah. Museveni Z. Muhozi Z. So, brothers and sisters, normally I like speaking without notes, but I decided to jot down a few things because I don't want to forget any point today. I want to start, first of all, let's give a round of applause to I cherish education and books. It's never too late to keep learning new things that is going to help us in the struggle for our liberation. So he has a degree in law now. So you do a lot of things with law. Mandela had a degree in law. Mandela, of course, led the ANC. Mandela is famous and identified with nonviolence, right? Which is the correct approach. But Mandela always said we cannot close all doors. How many people of you
Yeah, someone is asking in the comment section whether Namilimu Christine, is it my personal network or a general problem? It's actually a general problem. The network keeps on jamming here and there. Naye igena kumala eterere. It's just a network glitch. Anytime soon igena kubanga eterera. Yeah, anytime soon igena kubanga eterera. Just hang in there. Beira kotovaako. Just know that kabeerabeerawo here and there. Ngezaako okulaba nti nyinza okugamba bagituwendulidde because ebadde a crystal clear ever since we twatandikidde, but as I speak right now it's on and off. Nenga it's just network glitch. Anytime wegenda kubeera nga eteera, just hang in there. It's not your network, it's a general problem. Yeah. Nenga, of course, nga bwenkugambye, it's just getting started. The president hasn't actually even said a single word anytime soon. Agenda kubeera nga ayogerako eri NC, because as we speak now, however much it is happening in Chicago, but just get to know that NC yonna era bigenda maaso gwe kyolina okumanya. Yeah, okay, let's get back.
I'm telling you, in Uganda, Bobiwine revived hope when he was elected to parliament. When he was elected to parliament, everybody that he went and he tapped on the shoulder was elected. Remember? The famous election in Arua, when the candidate was defeated. By Bobiwine, and the candidate endorsed by Bobiwine. That's when the dictator realizes days were numbered, and his days are still numbered. I want to talk about the importance of communicating with our sisters and brothers in the armed forces. They're not our enemies. They're just as much as victims as well. No, our being heard will not only be saying we are with you, they will actually demonstrate it in practice. So let's keep talking to them. Let's keep reminding them that you are paid with our taxpayer money. Please do the right thing. When they give you illegitimate orders, refuse. Don't rape our young men and women. Keep talking to them. The president will tell you from her own experience that talking to these people, it does make them think. And when we have a number of them acting at the same time, then it will be overwhelming and they will join in the right side of the struggle. I want to say another point about the importance of unity. Museveni hates this party because it has the word unity in it. South Africa, how did a small population of 10% Europeans control that country for centuries? And then for decades, after apartheid became the policy in 1948, divide and rule. Museveni practices ethnic apartheid. One part of the country against the other. That is what he's doing right now. Trying to turn parliament into the next electoral college so that he can be elected by parliament. We must refuse to be divided. I urge all of us to remain united. Even if you have petty differences, suspend that difference for now until we defeat this monster in Uganda. Then you can get back to your small struggles. But for time being, we need, ultimately, what brought down apartheid in South Africa, even before the election of Mandela, they had a united democratic movement. Everybody came together. Student unions, trade unions, women's organizations, youth organizations, all the political parties came together. They said, let's get this monster of apartheid out the way, and then we can contest among ourselves. I strongly urge us to do the same thing in Uganda. Let me now talk about corruption as my final point, and then I want to invite a very good friend of Uganda, Professor Ron Daniels. I'm going to invite him in a few minutes, but give me just 2 minutes or so to speak about corruption in Uganda. First, I want all of you to go to your app and go to Google and put DOJ and Museveni. D for David, O for Orange, J for Justice. That's the United States Department of Justice. DOJ and Museveni. And you're going to see a link. Open that link, because some of you don't know about the story of corruption involving your dictator, Museveni. And he doesn't want the world to know. But I want everybody who's here today to know, and everybody on social media. DOJ and Museveni. Open that link and read that press release by the Department of Justice. You remember when Sam Kutesa became the president of the General Assembly of the United Nations? I launched a campaign on social media to try to block him because he's part of this dictatorial regime in Uganda. We got about 15,000 people voting on the petition, but he was still confirmed as the president in 2014. And he was celebrating. He met my brother who works at the UN and said, "Oh, go tell your brother I'm doing a good job. Tell him to stop working against me." He gave the message to my brother. So he's celebrating. I had also done a story on Black Star about how Kutesa, through his private company, NHAS, got a contract with the UN without telling the UN that that was his company. And he got $30 million out of that contract over a 5-year period. Money, illegitimate money. So I exposed that story, but what did the UN do? They went and they disabled the links leading to the invoices. So they're protecting Kutesa because he's the new president of the General Assembly. But when I did that story of corruption, I also sent it to the Department of Justice. I didn't know that they would do anything with it. Kumbe, what they did, they started tapping Kutesa's phone and listening to his conversations. He was talking to a gentleman named Patrick Ho, but he was also speaking to Museveni. And they're plotting how to steal more money. Ultimately, Ho, a Chinese national, offered a bribe of $1 million. And it's on that press release that I told you to read. And then Ho made a mistake. The bribe for $1 million, it sounds like a small amount. Yes, it's small, but it was only to open the door. Step number 2, they were going to have a joint company between a Chinese company called CFC and Kutesa's family and Museveni's family. In return, they were going to get oil concessions and be allowed to buy banks and also in tourism. Ho made a big mistake. He wired half of the money, $500,000, using a U.S. bank in New York. And that is how the United States got jurisdiction over this case. People had been wondering, hey, why was the trial in the U.S.? Because he used a U.S. bank. Museveni was a bit more cautious. He told Patrick, no, don't wire my money. Bring it physically to Uganda. So he invited Patrick Ho to come to the 2016 inauguration after he stole the election from Dr. Besigye. So Ho wrapped $500,000 as a gift and flew to Uganda and delivered that money to Museveni. Museveni has never denied receiving that $500,000 in cash. Why? Because he knows the FBI was listening to his conversation with Kutesa. And the minute he denies it, they may make that conversation available. But any journalist who is willing to take the risk in Uganda, ask the dictator, did you ever receive $500,000 in cash as a bribe? Of course, I recommend you stand at a good distance before you ask him that question, right? So I say this to remind you that now when he's talking about Anita must resign, Museveni must resign. The fish is rotten. Anita is the tail of the fish. We cannot get rid of the tail of the fish and maintain the rotten, corrupt head of the fish, which is dictator Yoweri Museveni. He must be out. Muhoozi must be out. And the party and the man who won the election in 2021 must be in so we can create the new Uganda we deserve. A luta continua. A luta continua. Let me now invite my good brother, Professor Ron Daniels, the founder of the Institute of the Black World 21st Century, the convener of Pan-African Unity Dialogue, which is a conglomeration of African-based, African-American, Caribbean organizations. We meet quarterly, digitally in recent years since COVID, but in the past it was in person. And we've also invited in the past, Secretary General Lewis has joined us in the past, and Dr. Kawuma has also joined us in the past in one of these meetings. A good friend of Africa who organized today's trip to Operation Rainbow Push to meet with Reverend Jackson. Unfortunately, due to his health conditions, we could not meet him in person, but we met all of his staff and Reverend Williams, who actually runs the organization on a day-by-day basis. A round of applause for Professor Ron Daniels.
All right. Big round of applause for Milton Alamati. He's on his way to the hallowed halls of Howard University. Yes. He's a teacher, but he's getting to go back to get an even additional degree in history, even though he already knows enough histories. But they're gonna put some credentials on him. Well, let me say it's an honor to be here again at the Diaspora Convention of the National Unity Platform. I had the honor to be at your convention last year, I think it was, at Crystal City, if you will. And it was an inspiring moment for me because I've been working on these issues most of my adult life, and I heard Professor Amadi talk about, Biden and, age catches up with folk. Well, I don't know about Biden, but they ain't catching up with me. You understand? See, in the U.S., some of you would not know about this necessarily on the African continent, but there are equivalents. But sisters and brothers in the United States know about something called Geritol, right? So I take a good injection of Geritol to keep this 82-year-old body working and moving forward, all right? So I want to bring greetings on behalf of the Institute of the Black World 21st Century and the Pan-African Unity Dialogue, which Professor Amadi has talked about. And I want you to go, and I want you to put this into, because I want you to be consistently connected with IBW21.org, IBW21.org. You should sign up for the newsletter so you can constantly be connected with the work that we're doing all over the world. I also want you to take note of something called the Black World Media Network, the Black World Media Network that Professor Amadi provides commentary for. It is a legacy project of one of the great revolutionaries of our time. If you don't know him, you can Google him. His name is Don Rojas. Don Rojas was the press secretary for Maurice Bishop of the People's Revolutionary Government of Grenada. So when I hear you say, forward ever was the slogan, it was the mantra of the People's Revolutionary Government of Grenada. One of the great revolutions in the Caribbean that got squashed through internal conflict, and we should learn from that, but also because the United States was fearful that the small island nation of 100,000 people was going to be the English-speaking Cuba in the Caribbean. And so they squashed it. But truth, trust the earth will rise again. So now in Grenada, you have emerging new leadership. But Don Rojas was the press secretary for Maurice Bishop, and he has created something called a Black World Media Network, which is 24/7 positive music, the kind of music and the kind of artistry that our dear beloved president puts out there, spits out there, as they say in the hip-hop world, if you will, from all over the world, not just the U.S., but also commentaries that help to connect the Pan-African world. So we want you to download the app, and we want you to take an opportunity to listen to that. Now I have 3 points that I want to make today to this great gathering. And I said it last year, I will say it again this year. You are incredibly important. The National Unity Platform is incredibly important, not only to yourselves as people of Uganda, you are incredibly important to the entire Pan-African world. And beyond that, you are important to the whole world. Because what we need, and I can say that this is someone who has waged these struggles for most of my life. I was one of the founders of African Liberation Day in the United States of America, fought hard with the Free South African movement, all of these different movements. I was in the forefront of them for many years because we wanted to liberate ourselves from the greatest Holocaust in human history, the transatlantic slave trade, followed by colonialism, and now followed by neocolonialism, perpetrated by Europeans who wanted to conquer the world and keep us as their slaves. We've been fighting against that. And indeed, there were leaders in Africa who rose up, including Museveni initially, who fought back against the colonial rule. The problem is the struggle was not just to replace a white face with a black face. Let me say that again. The struggle was not about replacing a black face with a white face in order to perpetuate oppression. It was really to achieve liberation. And what has fallen short in the African continent is many of the African leaders, not all of them, achieved the first phase. It's called national liberation. But very few of them have gone on to hear what Mwalimu Nyerere and Sekou Touré, Bob Marley would say, none but our minds will free us. So what we have, unfortunately, in the African continent, throughout the African world, the Caribbean, even in the United States of America, Africa is the richest continent on the face of the earth. No African anywhere should be hungry. What that means is we need new leadership. We need principled leadership. We need visionary leadership and leadership that is progressive. And that's what Bobiwine and the we must aspire. I like reluctant leaders. You know, you see some people that they're just hungry. They want power so bad. I don't like those kind of leaders. That's a danger sign. But when someone says, oh, well, I'm not sure I want to do this, I don't think I'm the right person, or when you have the person is in power and they're there, and they say, oh, no, it's really not about me, and it's about, I want to share, then you know you have someone. Because they're really about people power for real. And Bobiwine is that personified. Because at the end of the day, we do not need to worship a person. We're about representing principles. Principles that are personified in a person, if you will. And so that's what Bobiwine represents, and that's why all of you, I really mean it. One of the things that we talked about, and Professor Almighty talked about it, the whole question of keeping, of stimulating hope. That's what the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson, who we visited today, we had an interview yesterday, and we talked about the masses of black people across this country. And that's what we see happening on the African continent today. Because of you. It is not only that people are inspired in Uganda, they're being inspired all over the African continent. Discover its mission, fulfill it, or betray it. You are fulfilling your mission. And so my second point quickly is I'm coming to meet with her because she's bad. So not bad. We had a great time. All right. Yes. Let me quickly say that the award that Bobiwine, because words are important, it was presented to Bobiwine for your vision, courage, and leadership in keeping hope alive, the promise of an authentic, people-based democracy in Uganda with human rights and dignity for all. That's what the proclamation from the Rainbow says. So let me quickly move to my next 2 points quickly. And the next point is we need our sisters and brothers from the continent. All right. All right.
Yeah, of course, awo ekitundu kiba kino kyankalanamu kulembeze kasita ayingirawo. Yes, president ayingiddewo era ali mu kizimbe bulungi nnyo era nga
we'll give the fatherance after, please. Thank you.
All right, so let me hurry up here now. Mr. President, we just got finished talking about you as our servant leader. Number 2, it is important, sisters and brothers, to connect with the global black diaspora. Let me say that again. I want you to be intentional about connecting with your African American sisters and brothers all over the United States of America. That's important. First of all, you got to understand that you're coming into this country. We've talked about this earlier. And Fannie Lou Hamer said this: always remember where you came from and honor the bridges that brought you over. There was a bitter, bloody struggle fought in this country to pave the way so that there would be less discrimination in a racist society. Now, we're not finished. White supremacy is still alive in the world in America, but it hell of a lot better than it used to be, so that therefore people can come across that bridge, be here, and can share rights. And you need to honor that. But more important than honoring that, if we're talking about Pan-Africanism everywhere, we cannot have Caribbeans and Afro-Latinos and African-Americans and continental Africans in the same space who are not connected to each other. We have to have Pan-Africanism right here. We have to create black power and Pan-Africanism together. Why? It's not just sentimental. We have the ability to influence U.S. policy. We have the ability to elect people to office. You should be in a position to exercise power here as well as power back in Uganda as well. So I want you to be intentional about it. We want to help you with that from community to community to make sure. So it's good to be out here, you know, out here in the international airport, but I was telling Brother Kahuma, you know, next time we get together, we could be on the south side, because that's where the brothers and sisters, they're on the south side. We could have went to the DeSavo Museum. We could have went to another of different places, right, and intentionally make those connections. My last point is this. You also have to exercise, I already began to say it, you have to exercise power here as well. Do you realize that the continental African community, including those with the National Unity Platform, those of you who are voters, if you are resident and have the ability to register, you need to register and vote. You know why? Because you could make the difference in terms of whether it's the orange man, a.k.a. Agent Orange, that, I don't even want to put his name in my mouth. You could be the difference between whether that he wins and what he represents, or the new America is represented. You could be the difference. And so you can't just sit back and look at Kamala rising, everybody having a good, no, you need to get up in there and march on ballot boxes, arm in arm with your African-American brothers and sisters, our Latino brothers, our Asian, Native Americans, white sisters and brothers. March on ballot boxes to purge the American system of the scourge of the orange man and MAGAism. You have the power to do that. So brothers and sisters, as I take my seat, and I apologize if I may have to leave a little early. I've been working very hard, up early yesterday morning, all day yesterday, working all day today. I got to hop onto a plane to get back. But I want to say that we love you. Don't forget how important you are. You are the future. We need you to rise up, to continue to rise up, and do what Marcus Garvey said. Up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will. And when he said will, he means having the will, the strength, the audacity, the courage. Like our vice president. Lord have mercy, our deputy vice president, she got courage. I mean, she got will. She's a bad sister, I'm telling you. Up, you mighty race. You can accomplish what you will. People power. People power. People power. Luta continua.
Give him another big applause. Another big applause. Thank you, Mr. President, for the ovation. Yeah. Thank you very much. We are inspired by so many things about you. Your presentation, your age, your experience, and we are humbly as a generation extremely humbled that we have you amidst us to give us all that advice. Please add him another thunderous hand clap for the well execution and for accepting to identify with us. It is not easy to identify, to work with a group of people that are doing the extreme, fighting a military dictatorship. Sometimes its wings move even to the free world. But having you, sir, we are extremely humbled, and we look forward to liberating Uganda when you are still alive and energetic. Without further ado, I wish to report that, Mr. President, we started on Friday, and we have moved to this time Thursday, and we have moved to this time. Thursday was the arrivals. We have moved to this time. We started with sports. We have moved through the sessions on Friday. This morning, we had lectures also with the young people to develop the future. We can not only maintain today, but also look at the young ones. It is very important. Whatever we are doing, Mr. President, is for the future, not for us. And as I was lecturing the young people, I picked something that I will share with you. They said that this is the motivational stage of the revolution. Therefore, whatever everybody is doing, you should do it knowing that we are motivating the world to liberate Uganda. So let's take this as the liberation motivation stage. And that came from the young ones. Give the young ones another thunderous clap. Yes. They have identified this as a motivational stage. And for me, that was very, very, very important and inspiring. Indeed, we all must motivate each other to remain on course to overthrow the status quo of the military dictatorship back home. And with that and those words, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to take this singular honor, invite Dr. Kauma, our able president of the diaspora. We want to thank him for his organizational abilities. For you who are attending these conferences, I think you are seeing an improvement on organization, on direction, and systems. I know systems with us, they always take long to trickle in, but I want to thank your stance. You're a man of your word. You're a man who really makes, if you feel something is right, you'll go on with it. I saw it yesterday in you when we had to take very critical decisions and you stood by the right decision. We are humbled by your leadership, and God bless you. God give you the abundance of life to see the sweat of your fight. Dr. Kauma.
People power. People power. DJ Tweya Kaimba. Anthem ya fe ya no president ali mu kizimbe bannange. You can please be seated. People power. People power. Kunga diaspora kunga. Kunga Chicago kunga. Kunga Boston kunga. Kunga Texas kunga. Kunga Seattle kunga. Kunga Minnesota kunga. Yes, thank you everyone, thank you. On behalf of the NUP Diaspora Chapter, I would like to welcome our President. I welcome our Secretary General, David Lewis, our Leader of Opposition, Honorable Joe Senyonyi, our Vice President, Northern Uganda Region, Dr. Lina Zedriga, our Members of Parliament, and all distinguished guests. Protocol is observed. I would like to assure you, our leaders, that the state of the diaspora is strong. The diaspora is strong. We are continuing to grow. We are continuing to organize ourselves. And we are in a stronger position today to support our party in Uganda to get rid of Museveni. I want to point out some of our successes this last year. We have got the most sanctions against Museveni regime leaders this last year. The Speaker of Parliament cannot step in United States, Anita Among. She cannot step in United Kingdom. Other ministers cannot do the same of the Museveni regime, and it's not because we don't want our brothers and sisters to be able to travel, but it's because we are asking for accountability. Because back home, we no longer have any levers that can hold corrupt regimes, leaders accountable. Parliament is broken. And the only lifeline we have in Parliament is our opposition, our leader of opposition here and his team. That's the only lifeline we have in Parliament. Because Parliament is supposed to be the people's house, but it no longer reflects or represents the voices of the people. Look at the judiciary. It's broken. We have innocent young men and women. Achileo is an example. Innocent man, humble man. And he's dragged into the military court. And the judiciary is silent. So you cannot count on the judiciary. Olivia Lutaya and her colleagues and many others, they have been in military detention without trial for over 4 years. Over 4 years. So you can't trust Parliament. You can't trust the judiciary. You can't even trust our elections. Because sometimes, if Parliament can't do the job, if the judiciary can't do the job, then you say, you know what? When we get the ballot, we're going to hold the regime accountable. But even the ballot has been taken away from the Ugandan people. So what do we do? What do we do to hold the regime accountable? And that's why, as a diaspora, we have made a decision that we have to go after these leaders to make sure.
Baganda bange bali ku live stream eno munzikirize engeri president waffe Kyagulanyi Ssentamu Robert watuuse mu kizimbe. Live stream eno ngenda kugijjako ate ntandike empya kubenda bange wanvu yennyo. Mujjukire nti information tekoma wano obula tubeera twagala abantu bangi babere nga bagira video enaabeera empanvu ennyo ejasikeeringa awo abantu abalala okugira bange ewedde. Munzikirize live video ngi stopping kati ate ntandike empya. So genda bugenzi ku channel yennyini live empya etandise eno njijjeeko kati. Link ngenda gikuteerawo mu comment section gwe atasobodde kuginoonya video gyeri. Just check in the comment section olabe gundi empya.